All right, welcome back and thank you so much for staying with us as we continue this discussion, this Youth Day. Really looking into violence in our schools. As I said earlier, that we've had these discussions before, but what we'd love to hear from you is what is the particular different approach that you think we need to take in order to curb violence in our schools? So let's take a look at some of your tweets and see what some of you really have to say. You can keep sending your tweets to @SAtoday_SABC and you can also send through your voice and video comments to our WhatsApp line. The number is 081. We'll get that number back on the screen for you. But the first one is from Dr. Emerson Muleya, who says, we need school safety ambassadors, the programs, and the school safety patrollers. All right, and the next one from Knowledge Tibani, who says, freedom has somewhat destroyed the youth of today. All this drug and intoxicating in our young people in the name of freedom, hence this violence, the killings as well. We need some social welfare to come on board and work with the education system. The next tweet from Mohammed, who says, if adults in senior positions are not being held accountable for their crime and corruption, then the youth don't have any positive role models. The music they listen to and the movies they watch are also a contributing factor. And the last tweet there is from Queen of Africa, who says, parents are not present in homes. They leave home at 5 a.m. to catch a bus to work and come back at 10 p.m. when kids are sleeping. Where do you think the kids will learn manners from? No one is watching these kids. Bayazenzela nje. All right, and there is the very last tweet from no one, who says, bring the corporal punishment. You spare a rod, you spoil a child. All right, thank you so much indeed for all your tweets. You can just keep them coming. We'll be able to take a look at those tweets. But for now, let's continue our discussion. With me now, we have a member of the school governing bodies organization, that's the association that Matakanye is here. Dr. Tumi Dialle is an education psychologist. She's from the University of Johannesburg. Good afternoon to both of you. Thank you so much for joining us in Matakanye. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you very much, Palesa. Good day.
Yeah. You may have had my discussion with Mr. Mugwena Maluleke from SATU, saying that the parents should start taking some responsibility. They should attend meetings at schools. When teachers want to see them, they call them to meetings. They should make themselves available.
Thank you once more, Palesa. And our deepest heartfelt condolences to all the teachers and all the children who violently killed in our schools. And coming back to your question, Palesa, it is true that time is now that we fold our sleeves and bring the society on board, but through the parents, through the school governing bodies in our schools, so that through the school governing bodies then we'll be able to coordinate properly. Because if we don't have a coordinating structure, then we are made work in silos. So we do not want to be seen working in silos, but through the school governing bodies, then we are saying, formulate policies that will encourage parents to come on board. And you know, Palesa, that particularly in the former African schools, parents were not encouraged and parents were barred, parents were discouraged from supporting the education of their children. I was
about to say to you, take us into your confidence as to why some parents would not even bother to attend parents' meeting.
No, it's historical.
Yeah.
It is really historical. And we may think that now really parents are not interested, but it was historical. So I think adding on what Maluleke said, what talked about the mindset. So we have to work hard. Maybe then we have to use the platform, the SABC, the 404 platform, to talk to parents, to talk to the society, to talk even to the Department of Education to say, bring us people like Dr. Dialle to support us, so that we must know which things should we remove. Because you see, the past government discouraged us from attending schools. They will just come in the community and get an old man and say, you are the chairperson of the school board, and school board. You don't know who elected that school board. You don't know who are those school board.
All right.
And so we are saying quickly, Parisa, is that now that we are operating in a democracy, so then the school government must ensure that now it coordinates.
But
everybody.
23 years later, do we still say that it's historical that parents are not attending meetings? Why are parents not taking charge in their children's lives, Dr. Dialle?
I think part of the history, it's true that it's historical, but also we need maybe to change the ball game. Let us look at how and when do schools invite parents to the schools. So, in my experience and in many parents that I engage with, the only time the school invites the parent to the school, it's when they tell you about the school report, when they tell you about the money that you haven't paid, or when your child has done something wrong. Can the school begin to change the ball game in terms of engaging parents in constructive meetings, constructive talks? Obviously, if I know that if I get a letter from a school that invites me to the school,
there is a problem.
There is a problem.
Yeah.
It is not about constructive building or creativity within the school, or what can we do to move the school forward. Changing that ball game is the starting point. And as Dr. Matakanya says, probably it's historical that parents were called for that, and then it continues. Because the issue, for instance, one of the tweets talked about parents being away at 5 o'clock and coming back at 10. It's not new. In the African context, our parents have always
worked. That's how we
worked.
grew up, yes.
Actually, at least these ones are coming back home. We've had children who've been actually child-headed purely because parents came home month-end and there was nobody to take care of them. But we didn't have the scourge of violence we have today. So we need to re-look at saying, how do we redefine the issue of violence within the schools? What is it that we are missing as a society that makes our children so violent? What is that cry that our children are actually saying to us? Maybe we are not listening enough as adults, we're not listening enough as parents, we are not listening enough as government to say, what is it? What is this cry that the child will go out to be violent? And let us remember that the school, whether we like it or not, it is a microcosm of the family. This violence comes from somewhere. Yeah. It doesn't actually emanate from the school. It enters the school from various factors that the child brings into the school. So
what could be those factors, Dr. Dialle?
We do have, unfortunately we do have disintegrated family systems. We have absent parenting. Absent parenting is not about parents going to work from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. Parents could be there, but not there. We cannot run away from the fact that technology in itself, because we have seen many times where all parents are there, but parents and kids are home, but everybody's on their own, with their own technology, and we're not monitoring what's happening, we're not discussing what's happening. And also the absent, it is interesting because it coincides with
Father's Day
children, but the absence of the father figures in the home plays a role in that. So those are some of the aspects in terms of what is happening within the families.
And part of the education MEC in Gauteng, Panyaza Lesufi, had a meeting on Friday looking into this issue and other issues. And part of what he said is that he wants security to be beefed up at schools in the province, and police have also agreed to come on board to assist where necessary. Talk to us about the psychological impact that this will have when you see a police officer in the school's premises.
I might talk about that out of tune, being a teenager or a youth of the 80s, where I knew that I wrote my matric under very difficult circumstances with a policeman in the gun outside my exam door.
But does it
And
give that
I
sense
wouldn't
of
think-
security maybe to say, okay,
because
at
it
least
didn't
we're
actually,
free?
it gave a sense of fear for me. But at this stage, maybe that's just part of the solution. If those police are brought on board in terms of education, in terms, not a police that will come to the school, stand with. If I understood, I might have misunderstood the MEC, but it's not about a policeman standing in each school with, but it's about how police begin to educate about safety and security within. They become part of the teaching and learning process in a school system, and they are available when needed by the school when crisis comes in. So that's for me moving towards more of a positive kind of using police as part of the system. But we need to look at saying, how do we begin to educate? How do we begin to collaborate, not only educate, but even collaborate? And how to begin to tap into understanding the deep issues of communities and what really sparks the violence.
So, MEC Lesufi also pleaded with the school governing bodies to sort of strengthen security across schools and also establish what he calls the disciplinary committees. Do we not have those as it is now? And if not, why?
We, according to the South African School Act, it is the prerogative of the school governing body to establish committees in schools. But committees will establish according to the needs. And I think, despite all the other committees, for now, the committee that must be strengthened, the committee that must be supported, is the School Safety Committee. And in that school safety, we link it with the resolution that was taken on the 12th September 2018. One of the resolution was that school governors formulating their committees prioritize this School Safety Committee. But within the School Safety Committee, there must be parents, there must be community, there must be students, if it is in high school, there must be teachers, there must be a police. And I think Banyasa collaborate what our campaign as National Association of School Government Police to say, in that committee, let's have a police. Because the truth of the matter is that it frustrates if there is potential attack or whatever in the school. You go to the police. When you get to the police, they're saying, no, there are no vans. Hey, police, what?
But I think
whatever.
my question to you, Ndate, is, do we have those committees as it is now?
No, we do.
Security
we
committees.
do have committees, as I'm saying. We do have committees. But we are saying, despite having those committees, but we have to strengthen this one, add, and we prescribed to say they must, initially, because we had this authority of having committee, but we never looked into the question of police being part of that committee, because we always thought that now, I mean, if there are potential attacks or what, then we'll quickly rush to order. But another thing is that when we build or establish that committee that will have police, then we must link the school with the police station. So this police who is within the committee will help us quickly, rather than to quickly run to the police
station.
You understand? So this person, as Dr. has said, then will also help us in terms of security and all those, the procedures and all those things, what you do. Because in that, then we are saying there must be also children. And when they are children, these children know one another. If there is bullying, they know the bullies in the school. They know who are the bullies in the school. Now, when we go into that committee, we'll always say, then what we do about this? We'll not just hear the stories and leave the stories and don't believe in what's good. But also, question of bringing in the community. One way or the other, then we must have a way of bringing in the community, because these things are happening in the community. These children are emulating what the community is doing. These drugs are not manufactured in schools. These drugs are manufactured in the communities.
Yeah, I think
so
that is,
we have to link also the school with the community.
That is exactly what Dr. Dialle was saying, that is where the problem is, that is where the problem starts. And I think with this number of incidents that we have seen. The question is, what have you done to perhaps have engagements with the very same communities where your members are SGB members? Are we having those discussions as it is now?
We do. Hence, this is the first question that you asked, and we said a question of the history, but I think we are working hard to say, parents, come on board. When we call parents meeting, come to the meeting. I mean, the parents are part and parcel of the communities. You understand? So once we get it right, then we shall be really in control of the community. But for now, the truth of the matter is that people will mention question of parents are working, what. When we call them into the schools, they will only come probably when the principal is fighting the teacher, or when but we are saying now we must be proactive. We must know exactly what is to support in the school, and one of the support is the safety of the school. Then through that, then we must bring the parents on board to come and support us in that. But another thing,
and you make it sound as if it's going to take forever to get it right. By listening to you, it feels, I don't know, Dr. Dialle, if you're hearing what I'm hearing, but it sounds like we're not going to see the end of this anytime soon, because the parents are not willing to come on board. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not. I said historically. I mean, this thing that is happening now of bringing parents on board never happened before. But maybe you are measuring it with 25 years and say, what have you done in particular? The violence that was promoted by apartheid against us, that's the reflection. But it cannot just be question of 25 years then. But we are working towards that.
Okay.
But one time then I think we'll get it over, as long as parents, as they listen to me, all over South Africa, they can come on board. They are the solution. Guns, police, what is not a solution. Solution is within the community.
All right, Dr. Dialle?
I think it is important for us to realize that it is time for us to act as a society. You know, year after year we've been sitting and having these discussions, but we haven't had. So maybe the discussion should change, saying, as we sit here in 2019, what is it that when Palisa calls us in 2020, we would say, we have moved this step. This is what we have done in terms of violence. You know, and the starting point is we need to call together all the multidisciplinary teams, if I were to put it that way, or the organizations. We need the psychological services. Definitely the whole issue of violence has impacted on the psychology of our children. And we need to understand the psychology of violence.
Yeah.
We need to understand the psychology of violence from a teacher's perspective, from a parent's perspective also. You know, the bigger societal issues. We need to involve, as we've spoken about the police system, we need to involve the social welfare. Yes, I agree that parents play a role. But definitely the answer doesn't lie with parents only. It lies in the society as a whole, and the different professionals that are there within the societies that have to play a role in making the next child, when they leave home, they are ensured that they'll come back home safe.
All right, so I see you agree on that one.
Yeah, hence I said, Palisa, the answer lies within the society. I mean, the society or the community. But she has balkanized it to say, and it's true. You see, it's just unfortunate that when the dawn of democracy dawned in South Africa, most of the professionals left the townships. The townships are barren. When we talk community, we talk professional people, then we just have to go out there and borrow. So bring them into the township. So we don't know, but I think through Dr. they will help us so that when we talk parents, I think when you go to other communities like the former Montreal schools, you'll find that the chairperson of school government body is an accountant. The chairperson of a school government is an advocate. You will never get that in Soweto. You never get that in Soweto. They will live and they don't take it very seriously. So I don't know. That's one area that we must seriously look. I don't know who will help us, because these things are really happening in the township where all these professionals went out. They went to a better place, probably. Let me put it that way. But we want to make
greener pastures.
We want to make Soweto and the rest of the deepest, the rurals and the deepest rural, a better place. So we call upon also the professionals to come back and help us.
I do agree with you that Matakanya. However, I want to put across the point that in the structure of the SGPs, as we say in whatever Model C white school, the SGPs will be all these professionals. Because the structure of the SGP says the parents of the children who are at the school. So if I live in a suburb, I'll be black as I am, I'll be a member of the SGP in that whatever white school.
Where your child
However, I'll always be a Tutuza child. I was born and bred in Tutuza. You will always be a Soweto child. It doesn't matter where you sit. So maybe the answer lies in saying, can we relook at the structure of the SGPs in townships or in our local communities as to how does it make space for the professionals who don't necessarily have the children within the school to play an important role within the school. If Tutuza calls me, I can never say, that's my home, that's where I was born. The fact that I live somewhere else now doesn't take the Tutuza child in me. And if Tutuza needs my services, I have to.
You will provide them. A quick one, in conclusion, that different approach that we need going forward, what is it?
No, what we see is that the community must come on board, but through the committees that we are formulating in schools, like for instance the committee that I've talked about, the school safety committee that will have the community, that will have parents, that will have teachers, that will have learners, that will have police in that committee. So we quickly have, and as she said, really and truly the end of the year we must have answers. Nothing else than have the answers. If that answer does not work, we must have but this is the answer.
The end of the year.
The end of the year.
Children are continuing to die in the Matakanya.
No, I'm just saying that is the answer that we must have.
Is that the turnaround time that you put out there as the National Association of School Government?
I said, Palesa, is that this violence is as old as 350 years. That was really aimed at us. It was institutionalized. But I'm just saying
the end of the year.
The end of
we'll
the year.
We'll bring you back at the end of the year and we'll come and account to look at the numbers. Dr. Dialle, your parting shot. What needs to happen going forward? As you say, community members must start coming on board, but what's the quickest approach that we can put in place?
I think the quickest approach has to do with actually what the MEC said on Friday, but I also want to plead for us as professionals out there, the different professionals, to say, what is our role in our communities? At this stage, professionals who are my age, none of them can say they were born in a suburb. We were born in the townships.
So we must go back to
so let us go back, me and you, Palesa, and say, what can we do? In, the little that I can do in my community, in that Ipahami saying that I went to at the primary school, in that M.O. Siboni that I went to as a secondary school, what are the challenges in those schools that I can come across and really doesn't really take your whole time? Having to have saying I'm giving 5 hours of my time a week to make a difference. That's the 5 hours that you are watching The Bold and the Beautiful.
All right, time constraints. We'll leave it at this. We'll have both of you at the end of the year to look at the progress, really. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you very much.
All right. Many thanks there to Matakanye. He's the Secretary for the National Association of School Governing Bodies. We also had Dr. Tumi Dialle. Dr. Dialle is the head of the department at Educational Psychology from the University of Johannesburg. So keep your tweets coming at SA_SABC. Would really love to hear from you. What do you make of the discussions? We had the Department of Basic Education, we had SADU representing the teachers, we had courses representing the learners. The SGBs were also represented, but we were also throwing in some psychological impact that this violence has on children, learners, and all the education stakeholders. So would really love to hear from you. We're taking a quick break here on SA Today. There's still so much more to come. Stay with us.